Hello everyone, Stormer1 here. Today we'll be tracking the flood threat that is going to be continuing into tonight and even over the next several days. Also, we got more severe weather chances as well through Saturday. We're going to get started with the current hazards across the state of Kentucky, and we got a lot going on out there right now. So let's try to break this down here a little bit. So first of all, we got a tornado watch that is out there, and it's been out there for a few hours so far today, and then goes into effect through, I believe, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And here's a better look. Yep, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. It includes parts of South Central and Southeastern Kentucky. It even goes back down into Middle Tennessee, into Northern Mississippi, and these are areas that could be favorable for a couple of tornadoes, some damaged winds, and even some large hail as well. And then again, this watch goes through until 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So we still got a few more hours to go on that tornado watch. So those are the counties that are highlighted in yellow. The areas that are highlighted in this dark red shade, that is across parts of central, eastern, and a pretty good chunk of really nearly all of south central Kentucky, really. And you can see how it goes all the way back down into western Tennessee, northern Mississippi. These are flash flood warnings that is out there. You get a continuous line of flash flood warnings from around the Memphis, Tennessee area all the way up to Charleston, West Virginia. I mean, that's at least a couple of 100 miles worth of flash flood warnings. I mean, that's not something you see every day out there. And I do anticipate more flash flood warnings to be issued, especially in these areas in here. I think we're going to see more flash flood warnings get issued in these areas in here that I've circled in red. And some of these flash flood warnings do continue through midnight, but there's a pretty good chance that gets extended into tomorrow morning, as we're going to see continuous waves of showers and thunderstorms trending over some of the same areas out there. And then there's these lighter green boxes, and most of these here are river flood warnings. You can see a large chunk of the Ohio River is under a river flood warning from, looks like, about Tell City all the way down to Paducah. And we also got some scattered river flood warnings in parts of central Kentucky out there as well. And you're going to see more of these river flood warnings pop up over the next several days. And a lot of these rivers will likely be in flood stage for probably about a week, at least a week out there. So flooding is going to be a big problem out there, and definitely going to be very noticeable out there. So let's look at the Storm Prediction Center outlook here for today. We got a slight risk for severe weather that is along and south of I-64. It does not include Louisville, but it does include the Lexington area, Moorhead over towards Ashland, and really points south. Areas north of 64 is not included in that slight risk area. There's actually an enhanced risk for severe weather from parts of Middle Tennessee back down into far northeastern Texas out there, and that's where we may see the potential for very large hail and maybe even a strong tornado out there. But for us in Kentucky here, some damaged winds could be possible. There is a low-end tornado risk out there for parts of south central and southeastern Kentucky where we got that tornado watch. The hail risk is a little more expansive. It's a little bit farther north, and the main reason why is that north of the boundary, we're not going to have any surface-based instability, but we'll have some elevated instability, which tends to favor hail in some of the stronger storms. So I cannot rule out some hail. They could be pea-sized, maybe up to nickel-sized hail out there within some of these storms as the night does continue on out there. Day 2, which is tomorrow, got a slight risk for severe weather in parts of western Kentucky. That marginal risk does get extended to parts of central and northern Kentucky. There's actually a moderate risk for severe weather, 4 out of 5, for parts of Arkansas and even to northeastern Texas, where you got the greatest risk for strong to intense tornadoes down there. And the good news is that's going to stay away from Kentucky tomorrow, which is the good news. And you can see the tornado probabilities out there. There is a 2% tornado risk for far western Kentucky, but really most of Kentucky should be able to get away with the tornado risk tomorrow, mainly because of the lack of low-level shear, but also as well, you got non-directional wind shear, which means that the wind direction from the surface all the way up into the upper parts of the atmosphere is generally in the same direction, which is not ideal for tornadoes. But when you go down to like Arkansas and northeastern Texas and even southeastern Oklahoma, it's a different story. You got directional shear and you got strong low-level shear out there. And that same system will come in to Kentucky by Saturday. And this is the Saturday outlook. We actually got a slight risk across a large chunk of Kentucky, most of central and western Kentucky. The northern extent may get cut down just a little bit more out there. The northern extent's a little more certain, but I think there's better confidence on severe potential south of 64 than north. But Saturday is a little bit of a complicated setup as of right now. But you can see the greatest risk for severe weather does stay away from Kentucky, where you got the enhanced risk for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and even parts of eastern Texas out there. And that's where we could see maybe some significant severe down there as well. And after Saturday's system here, we'll have showers linger into Sunday, and then a cooler, drier pattern begins to settle in out there. But we got a lot of stuff to get through first before we get into that cooler and drier pattern beginning on Monday. So let's check out the rainfall amounts in the last 24 hours here. And let's actually extend this back to the last 48 hours here. Make sure we get all the numbers in. And you can see here where the heaviest rain has fallen so far today. It's been across south central Kentucky. Well, it looks like, let's see, DeKalb County has picked up over 5.8 inches of rain down there. And there's some significant flooding that's been ongoing down in some of those areas. I know Adair County is dealing with some significant flooding issues, and then Adair County's picked up around, well, actually almost 4.5 inches of rain out there. And if you go up to Casey County, it's 4 inches and 3/4 of an inch of rain. And some of these numbers will continue to rise over the next couple more hours. And this boundary here is going to start slowly moving northward, which will put the main focus of these thunderstorms a little bit farther north as the night goes on. And I'll show you guys the future radar from the HRRR model run here in just a few moments. But, already we're dealing with some, flooding problems across parts of Kentucky. And this is just the beginning of this flooding. I mean, we still got a couple more days to go. We already have some of these type of numbers out there. So here's a look at the excessive rainfall forecast, and this is for today. Or you can say, the risk for flash flooding. Areas in red is in the moderate risk, and that would include a large chunk of central Kentucky and western Kentucky. In that pink shade, west of Bowling Green, even down kind of along the Western Parkway, down towards I-69 and even parts of the I-24 corridor, is in a high risk for flash flooding tonight, where we could see training of thunderstorms that could produce a significant amount of rain in a short amount of time down there, which could lead to significant flooding. And remember, the majority of flash flood related fatalities in the country, the majority of those has happened on high risk days for flash flooding. So anytime you get a high risk for flash flooding, it's something you need to take very seriously, and something you do not want to underestimate out there. So let's get a little bit deeper into this here, of this flood potential here. So as we go through the evening, actually, you know what? Before we look at the HRRR model run, let's actually look at current radar of what it looks like right now. And we've had some severe weather throughout a good chunk of the day across south central and southeastern Kentucky. Right now we don't have any warnings, as really a good chunk of the atmosphere is pretty stable, especially from a surface-based standpoint. We still got some unstable air in parts of southeastern Kentucky, including places like Barberville, Williamsburg, and Middlesboro. where you have temperatures are still in the low 80s down there in a few different places. So it's still very warm. But now we're starting to see more bands of moderate to even at times heavy rain kind of trending over some of the same areas here, especially the areas that are in that flash flood warning or in the flash flood warnings that are currently out there. It looks like some of the flash flood warnings did get expired in parts of western Kentucky, but don't be surprised if we see more flash flood warnings get introduced in western Kentucky later tonight. But really the area of most concern for flooding, at least in the short term, is these areas in here. Russellville, Bowling Green, Franklin, Scottsville, Glasgow, Columbia, up towards Liberty, Stanford, Danville, Lebanon, Campbellsville. This is the area of most concern with the more significant flooding right now. And this area is going to kind of shift northward as we kind of go through the overnight hours, as this boundary that it's set up, approximately here. We got a boundary that's approximately sitting up right there that is ever so slowly moving northward, which will help put the main axis of these showers and thunderstorms a little bit farther north as well. North of the boundary, the air at the surface is stable, but south of that boundary, the air is pretty unstable out there. So you're going to see that boundary slowly move northward, but for the time being, you still got these periods of moderate to maybe even at times heavy rain out there. We actually got a couple of tornado warnings in Middle Tennessee right now with a couple of supercells down there as well. And I believe we've had a couple of confirmed tornadoes in Tennessee today. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on out there, but a lot of this activity here is going to be slowly moving northward over time, and you're going to see that with the HRRR model here. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, the HRRR is a little bit too far to the north for my liking. If you want to compare to what's going on out there right now, it might be a little bit too far to the north for the placement of these storms. I mean, if we go back here, you can see here we got maybe actually, you know what? I may have to take that back. Looks like overall it's doing a good job. So I'm actually going to take that back. But maybe under convecting a little bit for Middle Tennessee. I mean, we got some supercells out there right now, and it's not really showing much supercells in Middle Tennessee right now. And actually, it's not really picking up much of that moderate rain that's in South Central Kentucky either. So it's a little bit too far to the north on the placement of some of this here. So we might have just assumed that some of these storms out here may be a little bit farther south than what the model is predicting. Just FYI, as we look into this model run here. And you can see here what happens as we get into the overnight hours. You just get these waves of showers and thunderstorms. Now, some of these thunderstorms could produce some small hail as well. With the tendency of having elevated instability with setups like these stronger storms can produce some small hail. I think we'll get a lot of pea-sized hail reports, but I cannot rule out some hail that could be up the size of nickels out there. So there could be some hail with these storms here tonight, but I don't expect them to cause much trouble, at least in terms of the hail side of things. But the main issue for tonight is going to be the flood threat. The flood threat is very high out there, as you've seen from the Weather Prediction Center outlook of that high risk out there. And you can see how the storms really just train over some of the same areas even through parts of Friday morning. So it's quite a concerning look out there for some of those areas that are currently experiencing significant flooding right now, still getting more rain out there. And they certainly do not need any more rain out there. And if we actually talk about rainfall numbers here, really through tonight into Friday morning here, you can kind of see here there is potential for some areas that have picked up, at least a couple of inches of rain, may add 2 to 4 inches of rain on top of what we already have out there. And this might be a little bit too far north on the placement of some of the heavier rainfall amounts. Might need to be a little bit to the south, but regardless though, you still got a lot of rain on the way, and even 2 inches of rain additionally tonight can still cause flooding problems. But I'm more concerned within some of these heavier thunderstorms that train over some same areas may have potential to produce, rainfall amounts anywhere from 3 to 4 inches. And I think that's where we could see the more significant flooding later tonight. So then again, I'm pretty concerned about the flooding threat tonight, and that should be everybody's primary focus, and not really the severe weather. Severe weather potential tonight is very low. It's nowhere as close as what it's going to be or what happened last night out there. So don't be concerned about the severe potential tonight. It's not something I would be concerned with. But going back to the future radar from the HRRR, as we go through Friday morning, those storms are going to move northward along that boundary. However, there is the outside chance that new thunderstorms may develop along that boundary, and the HRRR suggests we may get some new storms that may form along the Bullgrass and Western Parkways. And along that boundary, there is some pretty favorable instability out there. There's quite a bit of instability out there, and dew points are also quite high as well. Level shear is still very weak, but we do have some strong upper level shear out there. So the thing about tomorrow's setup is that there is, then again, another chance for some strong to severe storms out there. But the main reason why we won't see a tornado risk tomorrow is because of the lack of low level shear, plus wind shear is actually be non-directional shear, which means that the wind direction from the surface all the way up to like 500 millibars, which is in the upper parts of the atmosphere, it's going in the same direction, and that's not ideal for tornadoes. Usually you want wind change direction with height to get tornadoes. That's what we have last night. For tomorrow's setup, we're not going to have that, so I don't think we're going to see tornadoes tomorrow, but some of these storms could be capable of producing some strong, maybe some damaging winds, and maybe even some large hail. Could be possible as well. And then as you kind of move into Saturday morning here, we should start to see what's probably going to be maybe a squall line of maybe some stronger storms, but those storms will be on a weakening trend as they kind of move into Kentucky here. But there may be some strong winds within some of those storms as we go through Saturday morning, and then uncertainty really increases as you get into Saturday here. The main uncertainty for Saturday is that with a morning wave of storms, where's that boundary going to be laid? Because really along and south of that boundary is where they're going to see the greatest chance of seeing strong severe storms for round number 2, and you can see round number 2 showing up in central Arkansas. And some of those same storms will be moving up into Kentucky near around peak time heating out there. So, but areas that be along and south of that boundary Saturday will have potential to see strong severe storms Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. That could be, and some of those storms can be capable of producing damaging winds, and I can now roll out some quick spin up tornadoes. Right now, Saturday doesn't look to be a setup favorable for strong tornadoes, but we'll continue to keep an eye on Saturday. I think Saturday's got better severe weather potential out of these next 3 days out there. I think better potential than today out there. So we got to keep an eye on Saturday. But also on Saturday, we really got to focus on the flood risk. And I honestly believe the flood risk on Saturday and the Saturday night, I think the ceiling is a little bit higher compared to tonight here. You may have a longer duration of training thunderstorms, and on top of extremely saturated soils, and most of that rain is just going to run off, and I'm very concerned about the flood threat for Saturday into Saturday night. I think the ceiling is very high, and if we actually go back to the Weather Predictor outlook and look at the flash flood outlook for tomorrow, we kind of get a break here. Western Kentucky's got some potential for flooding, but for most of Kentucky here, chances of flooding is low. Maybe exception would be Friday morning out there, but for most of the day on Friday, it isn't going to be too bad. But if you get into day 3, which is Saturday, and this is what I was talking about here, and we actually have another high risk for flash flooding for Western Kentucky, and it's very rare to have a high to have a day 3 high risk, which tells you there's high confidence on Saturday's flood threat. And I would be concerned for areas in the moderate to high risk areas for the potential for significant flooding, which would be across central and western Kentucky. Now, the exact placement of these could change depending on where that boundary is going to sit at. But for right now, central and western Kentucky's really got to keep an eye on the flood threat Saturday and into Saturday night here. I think we're going to see some big time flooding problems out there. And if we go to the HRRR model run here for rainfall amounts, and the HRRR model is a convecting allowing model, and it kind of gives you the better idea of the ceiling on the flash flood potential compared to medium range guidance, which medium range guidance are not convecting allowing models. I'll show you the European model after this one here, but this is a HRRR model for total rainfall through Saturday afternoon. This does not go through the entire day of the second round of storms for Saturday, but you can see here that there is some areas that may pick up 4 to 6 inches of rain before this next wave comes in. It's even got locally higher amounts up to 10 inches. I think that's going to be overdone, but either way here, across parts of central and western Kentucky, even northern Kentucky as well, could be in the line for some significant flooding later this week. But you can also see south central and southeastern Kentucky, there's really a chance that by Saturday afternoon you may not get any rain. You can see some areas may not pick up on any rain, or maybe even just a few tenths of an inch of rain. There's at least some good news with this pattern, is that the heaviest rainfall totals look to miss the mountains of southeastern Kentucky, which is good, because if we were to have these type of numbers over southeastern Kentucky, the flooding would be more catastrophic down there. So at least some of the heavier totals is missing the more vulnerable places for flash flooding. So yeah, and here's the European model here for rainfall, and this does go through Sunday, and you can see here the area of greatest concern is across parts of central, northern, and western Kentucky in here. Areas especially in the pinks and the blue colors, those are rainfall amounts could be anywhere from 4 to 8 inches. Now, since it's a medium range model, don't be surprised if you see locally higher numbers higher than this. Since it's not a convective allowing model, it doesn't necessarily give you the highest potential, but it can kind of give you the more conservative numbers for an event like this. So either way though, a lot of rain's coming. Significant flooding is likely, even for tonight and into tomorrow morning, and then another wave of flooding rains and even more significant flooding is going to come in Saturday and into Saturday night. So we got to make sure to stay weather aware, and I think flooding is going to be the number one threat, and I think it's going to be a much bigger threat over the severe weather threat as well. But anyways guys, this is all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys get any questions, you put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. I see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.